Okay, well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. If we have some other friends join us, that's fine, but I know some of you might have some schoolwork to do or not. Unfortunately, it's raining, so I'm going to have to do this in from my house today, and I think I have a little helper, Meredith, that's going to try to help me. Can you pick that up, though, first of all? So if you do not have the supplies, that's okay. This is something you can kind of do once we get off, and we're going to do kind of some little experiments to kind of show you the difference in soil types. And then we're also just going to talk about some seeds, and I have a lot of different seeds and stuff here that I'm going to show you in my kitchen. So you guys can hear me, or you guys can either unmute yourself through the whole time or mute. It doesn't matter to me. But Meredith, you want to say hi?
Hi.
Okay, so before we get started, tell me what you know about planting seeds. Be anything.
They have to be a certain distance down in the soil.
Absolutely. And do you know, do bigger seeds usually have to be planted deeper than smaller seeds?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That is correct. Does anybody know why bigger seeds need to be planted deeper than small seeds? Hello, Caitlin. Any ideas? So it has to do with energy. So if we were to take these really big seeds, let me grab them, Meredith, you're gonna have to scoot over, hun. So hopefully you can see these are some bean seeds that we have. This light is kind of, so we have some bean seeds over here versus some really tiny, you can probably just see like the speck, this little itty bitty tiny seed over here. If we plant too big of a seed, then if you plant too small of a seed too deep, it's not going to have enough energy to push itself out of the ground. So the bigger the seed, the more energy that it has actually stored up kind of here in its seed, and then it's able to push out of the ground. So also, does the soil that we have make a difference with the types of plants we can grow?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Do you know why?
Because some soil doesn't hold water. Okay.
Absolutely. Is that you, Emily?
Yes, it does.
That's my brother Nathan.
Oh, it's Nathan. Okay, awesome. Very good, Nathan. So that is so true. And we're going to do a little experiment here to show how the three types of sand particles, sand, silt, and clay, will actually drain differently with water. So I'm going to try to set this up here. I'm going to, if I put it, my coffee maker, I'm a little bit higher level. I'm going to shut this light off. Are you guys seeing a real bad glare?
Not that bad.
Not that bad. Well, let me see here a second. There's a little bit better, maybe. Okay. So if you have the list of supplies, you can do this, or you can do this later on. That is absolutely just fine. And I see here, hey, Kate, are you just watching it? Okay. So what I have, we talked about sand, silt, and clay. Does anybody know which one is the smallest particle size of soil?
Sand.
Sand would actually be the biggest. What do you think?
Clay.
Clay, absolutely. You are right. So I am going to, let me see how to, honey, you're gonna have to move, sweetie. Okay, so I'm gonna set up an experiment here. Let me move my stuff. need a bigger counter. So I'm gonna put this down here, and I measured out half a cup of, it's actually some Jiffy corn muffin mix here. If you have graham cracker crumbs or something like that, I've got it measured out into a coffee filter, and I'm gonna put that into my glass here. And then I'm going to take about 1/4 a cup of some rice. So the muffin mix is going to represent our smallest soil particle, which was which one? Start with the C. Clay, absolutely. Nice job. So we're going to take our rice. Rice is going to represent the one in the middle. Which one do you think that one would be?
Silt.
Silt, awesome. So I'm going to take and put that into another coffee filter here. And then I'm going to put that into a clear cup. And the last soil particle size would be what then?
Sand.
Sand, awesome. So I'm going to have some beans over here. And I'm going to put 1/4 a cup of beans. I want to see my little photographer over here. 1/4 cup of beans. Another one. You should help record me. That would help Meredith and Mackenzie. So I'm going to put that into another cup over here. And then I'm going to have, Mackenzie's going to help me now here. I'm going to have her fill up 3 1-cup measuring cups. I'm going to have you fill them about halfway full. So we're going to see how fast the water will actually flow through our sand, our silt, and our clay to kind of represent it. And we're going to add some yellow food coloring so that it will kind of show a little more dramatic effect over here. And I'm going to have Mackenzie and Meredith help me drop them in there. And let me try to get the camera or my laptop set up so that we can try to see at the same time which one is going to soak down into the bottom of the cup the quickest.
Oh, I know.
So we're going to get this set up here so that they don't fall down to the bottom. Mackenzie just has a really good idea. She's got rubber bands, which she's going to put here on the coffee filter because some of them just want to fall right off. Try that one. I think this one will stay. So I lost Meredith, but Mackenzie and I will dump the water into, can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see which ones do you guys think was gonna go flow down the quickest? Any thoughts? Any predictions?
Beans.
The beans? Okay, well, so I'm gonna go ahead, we'll try not to dump this on my computer. Mackenzie's gonna pour the water into our beans and rice, and I'm gonna pour it into our Jiffy mix, which is like our silt. So, ready, Kenzie? 1, 2, 3. Okay, do you guys kind of see that there?
Yeah.
Okay, so here, Kenzie, let's hold those two up. So this is, actually, we'll just go
Looks like I got
this way.
There's no water
So
in the
this
glass
over
now.
here is the silt, and it's about there. There's still quite a bit on top. Kenzie's got the rice, and
It has a bit more water than the rest of them.
yeah, pretty much all the rice kind of went, well, and the beans too. It all pretty much went through. So you guys were right that our sand, the water filters through a lot quicker than it would the silt. In fact, the silt, let me try to show it here, still has a lot of water puddling around on the top. So that would be like our not silt, our clay, excuse me. So let me put those in the sink for me. So if we had some vegetables that needed to have quite a bit of water and we had a sandy soil, what would you have to do more often?
Water.
Absolutely, you'd have to water them a lot more. And sometimes if you have any containers, like really small containers, you notice you have to water them a lot more because they just don't have enough soil to try to help keep them going. So if we had really sandy soil, there are some vegetables and fruits like grapes usually like it kind of a little sandier, blueberries, and there's some other ones that kind of like it a little sandy. So if they had too much water, their roots and stuff over time might kind of mold, or they wouldn't do as well. So that's one of the most important things when you look for a garden site, is to try to know what kind of soil type that you actually have or are working with. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to plant some seeds, and I have several different types of seeds over here. And some of you I know that have been to some of my PSI workshops might already know some of this. So this might be a really good review for some of you. But do all seeds look the same? We talked about the size. So we know already that some of them are small and some are really big. But is there anything else that's different about the seeds?
What they look like?
What they look like, yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean with that? So let me show you an example. Go ahead.
Like the different colors and shapes.
Absolutely. So this, anybody know what kind of, I'm going to turn my light back on here. Okay, maybe you can see a little bit better. Anybody know what kind of seed this is? Can you see that?
I don't know that.
What do you think? Is it being
An
too dark?
onion. An onion.
An onion, right. So the onion is kind of more like a cylindrical type of shape. It's not just a perfect little circle. It's more like an oval. So that we would have to plant a lot deeper than some of the really tiny seeds we have. And we are going to plant some, let me find where I put my pepper seeds at here.
Ooh.
Well, I have some tomato seeds. Oh, here they are. My pepper seeds that I'm actually going to plant, and then when the weather gets nicer, when they get taller, I'm going to put them in my garden. So these are called a confetti pepper. They're sweet peppers, so they'll have all kinds of different colors and stuff on them. And so these are a lot smaller, obviously. So we have to plant those a lot more shallow so that we don't bury them too much, and then they won't come up because they'll take too much energy to try to get out of there. There's one other type of, well, not one, but several other, but another type that I had on hand is one of these. Anyone have seen one of these before?
It's a
I think I heard it over there in the Virgil family.
bulb.
It is a bulb, absolutely. So you might have seen a lot of our like spring types of flowers and those things kind of have these little bulbs in there. So they're a pretty big one, but we want to make sure we plant those at the right depth too. And they kind of look like an onion in a way because they kind of just have layers that'll peel apart and some of those things. So those are some of the different types of seeds that we have. Are there any questions right now?
No.
No. Do any of you guys have any seeds you're going to plant with me? Or you're just going to watch? Caitlin?
We're just watching.
Okay, that is just fine. You can do this even like tomorrow if hopefully it's not raining. It's a lot better to do outside. Oh, Caitlin, do you have your hand raised? Or
I'm planting seeds.
you're planting seeds? Awesome. What are you going to plant?
Morning glory. Which one do you have? Oh, those are the bachelor buttons.
Bachelor buttons,
Cosmos. Morning.
Oh, I love those. Those sound really, really pretty. Awesome. I'm going to plant some vegetables, and I'm going to also show you, I really love to garden. I love to do other things. So I'm going to actually take you on a little field trip to my dining room and show you some seeds that I have already planted. So we're just going to make a quick little trip over here. And when they get a little bit bigger, some of these I'm going to actually take out and put into my garden. So can you guys kind of see, this is my little greenhouse thing that I've been starting these. So I have a bunch of zinnias, I have some petunias, and these are some of my favorite back here. The ones with the little red leaves, those are called coleus. And so back up a little more. So yeah, this is my little kind of growth chamber thing that I have going on here. And I have some other seeds that I planted a long time ago, and I'm going to show you. These are kind of one of my favorite. These are called a coleus. So they have really pretty like red on the leaves and kind of the green tips. So I'm going to let these get a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to actually take them out to my pots and put them in there. But the one thing that I've learned about planting things inside is that sometimes if I were to take a bunch of these new little plants outside right away, they might actually die because it could be windy, and these plants have had just a perfect little environment. They haven't had to worry about wind. They haven't had to worry about any rain or anything. Now, luckily the rain today is coming down nice and slow. But what happens sometimes in Nebraska when we get rain? Does it always come down nice and slow?
No.
Shaking. Absolutely. That is so true. Sometimes it comes pouring down really, really hard, and then it can knock my plants over. So what I try to do is take my plants outside a couple hours a day and let them kind of get used to the wind and everything else. Plus, sometimes when it gets really sunny out, that can be really hard on the plants. And so I kind of go back and forth and let them kind of get used to the outdoors so that they don't grow. But I just thought, the beans won't absorb the water like the other ones. So absolute nice job, Bailey. Thanks for putting that in the chat. If you guys have other questions, go ahead and put those in the chat box, and we can make sure to answer those later on. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. Let me get this set up here so you can kind of see what I'm going to be doing here. So I have, these are some parsley seeds that I had also started, and I actually planted a few yesterday, and kind of just waiting on these till I get some more pots. And here's some tomatoes. Now these I actually did buy, but it's a little early for us to be putting in tomatoes because you remember what kind of plant tomatoes are? Do they like things hot or cold? They're like
hot.
Yeah, Absolutely. They like them really warm. They're called a warm season plant. So they actually like things hot. And so today, I mean, they probably would be okay, but it's a little chilly. So I'm going to wait a couple of days. And when I put these in, I actually put a milk jug container over it. And it kind of acts like a greenhouse for them. Okay, so you can plant your seeds in all kinds of different things. You can put them in like a pot like this already, and then they're ready to go. But what I'm going to do today, I have these little kind of tiny pots over here. And so the thing I like about these, they're kind of like a cardboard egg shell, and they're kind of good for the environment. They'll basically disintegrate. And so you don't have to worry about throwing away any plastic or anything, and they just seem to grow really well. These are the ones you can tell they start to peel apart kind of real easily here after I've watered them a lot and stuff, but they seem to do a really good job. So I'm going to go ahead and get some soil. So Caitlin or anyone else following along, you can get some soil.
I already have some.
You already have some? Okay. And if you don't, maybe mom or dad or your adult there will let you do that later. I'm just going to put my soil, I'm just going to kind of do 4 just for demonstration purposes here. But this soil is pretty dry. So this soil is pretty dry. So if I were to put a bunch of seeds, and you can put a bunch of seeds in here, but if I were to put a bunch of seeds in here right away and I add a bunch of water, what could happen to our seeds?
They could drown.
Absolutely, they could drown. So what I like to do is actually add a little bit of water to it before I put that in. So I'm just gonna grab some water here. And sometimes I use a squirt bottle, but I'm just gonna make this go a little bit quicker here. And I'm gonna pour some soil in there, and then it just kind of likes to sit well because this is a nice potting soil, which actually is light and fluffy. So it takes a while for that water to actually form. So go ahead and kind of add some water. I'm gonna rinse my hands off here a little bit. And sometimes I'll let that just kind of sit for a while. Sometimes I also like to water from the, put some water in the bottom of the container if it's not gonna leak, you put it on your floor, because then that water will actually rise up to the top and you won't have to worry about the leaves kind of getting in the way and those things. So for to add some water in here. And Mackenzie brought me my little squirt bottle. I use these all the time, especially when after they start coming up, they're really fragile, especially my tomato plants and stuff, because they just don't quite, sometimes they get kind of leggy and have big stems. So after I get that watered in, I'm gonna take my sweet pepper seeds, and a couple of things that you'll notice on the seed package. So they'll usually tell you how deep to plant them. So mine says 1/4 of an inch deep into individual containers. And it says to keep moist, and that's really important. I had some plants that I kind of forgot about, and they got dry, and so they started to come up, and then basically they died because I kind of forgot about them. So you have to make sure you keep them wet. And it says that the seedlings will emerge in 10 to 21 days. So basically around 2 weeks or so, we'll get some pepper seeds to come up. And then like I was talking about earlier, it says before transplanting, before taking like the plant that I have here out into the garden or a pot or something, it says move to a sheltered area outside for a week. And that's so that they can kind of get used to the environment a little bit better. So I'm gonna go ahead, and these are kind of little seeds. I sometimes like to plant 2 in one of my little containers because sometimes they don't all grow, they don't all grow, or one of them might die. And then if they both grow and get really healthy and strong, you just kind of got a bonus one. So I'm just gonna put them in my container and kind of cover it up lightly here. What kind of things do you guys like to plant?
Radishes.
Radishes. Did any of you guys get your garden, any of your garden planted? Peas?
Yeah.
Any of you guys do any potatoes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Anyone like beets?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a lot of all of our cool season ones are planted, and then I'm gonna just kind of spray it again. Oh, the sun ending got plugged up or something here. I'm gonna spray it again. And then I want to put it in a nice warm spot so that those seeds can grow, because they need heat in order to continue and grow. So that's kind of the little demonstration that I was going to show you here. And you can go ahead and keep planting there, Miss Caitlin. That is just fine. The other thing I wanted to talk to you all about is how you actually exhibit your vegetables to the fair. And I'm going to share my screen with you here. I know some of you guys are some professional garden exhibitors and have done all the things there. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
So anytime that you are going to exhibit any fruit, herb, flower, anything like that, you need to double check this book, and we have it in the extension office, and make sure that you know how to exhibit those vegetables, because there are certain ways to do that. So if you have some produce laying around the house, you can kind of pretend to be the judge. So it also, I like what this guide tells you that went too far, because it tells you about the general judging criteria. So I'm going to grab, I have some potatoes here. And obviously I did not grow these. These came from the grocery store because it's way too early for anything to be done. But when it talks about the growth quality, they just want to know kind of what it talks about. Is it mature? Like, did you pick it too soon? And sometimes I know with our early fairs, it's really hard to get them big enough. We talk about a marketable size. So if I'm gonna have like a potato, you know, would this be a marketable size? If I'm selling it for, you know, a baking potato, yeah, that would work. If I was having like little new potatoes, they would be a lot smaller. We talk about uniform, even shapes. So this potato that I have is pretty good about having a uniform, even shape. I have another potato over here, if you can tell the difference. It kind of has this little bump over here, so it's still gonna taste fine and everything, but it's not probably a perfect potato. And then they talk about trueness to type. So this is one of the reasons why whenever you plant your vegetables, you need to keep track of what kinds you planted. And this is actually, you can see my husband labeled 2020 planted seeds keep for fair. So we actually keep track of all of our empty seed packages, so that when it comes time to fair, we can put what kind of potato was it? Was this like a russet potato? Was it a Yukon Gold potato? There's all those varieties, and that's what the judge is looking for to know, is it that actual type of vegetable or fruit that it's supposed to be. Then when we come down here to condition, is it fresh? Is it clean? So you don't want to bring something into the fair that has just tons and tons of dirt or soil on it. And then trimming, we'll talk about that in a little bit. For onions, they have to, the stems have to be trimmed so far. And then bloom. So some fruits, like your grapes and plums, I've never had a chance to exhibit any of those, but they have kind of a natural waxy coating, and it's called like a surface bloom. So we just want to make sure that I don't really destroy that. We don't want it really rubbed off at all. So uniformity, this one's really important. And this is also really hard to do. So if I was going to take some potatoes to the fair and I dug up a hill of my potatoes and I only had maybe 8 potatoes or something, and that's all I planted, I'd only have 8 to pick from. And so if they are not all the same size, that's really hard. If they're not all the same shape, the color, the maturity, and the type. This is also important. I learned this with flowers. If you're gonna take flowers that are all supposed to be the same color, like maybe say marigolds. Marigolds come in all kinds of different colors, or zinnias too, but they all have to be like your yellow or your pink, whichever variety you have, unless the variety that you're talking about is supposed to have a whole different colors and stuff. And then also the type. We kind of talked about, again, trueness to type. So here's the score sheet. So you can actually see what the judge is looking for. And then and I like this too because it does talk about some tips for when to plant your vegetables. So for example, the last spring frost date in Nebraska, for eastern Nebraska, is kind of around your April 24th for central Nebraska. More so for us, it's May 1st. I always kind of say, around like after Mother's Day, there's a really good chance that it should not freeze. So this kind of gives you some tips over here for how many days before the last average frost you can plant some of those vegetables. And then did any of you guys have any produce on hand that you're going to kind of evaluate? Nope. Okay, well, you can evaluate some potatoes with me. So I'm going to get to, first of all, I want to mention this part about onions here. So when I talk about onions, the thing I like about this is it will tell you the ideal bulb diameter is 2 to 4 inches. So go ahead and measure that out to make sure that you stay within there. And then look at this bottom here for preparation. It says that the stems on that onion should be 1 inch or less in diameter, and trim those stems. So in other words, when you pick the onions out, you have all kinds of stem over here. You need to cut it about 1 inch above the bulb. And then it talks about leaving those roots intact, but you can kind of trim them to a uniform length of 1/4 of an inch. And I have seen judges sometimes deduct a ribbon placing if they didn't follow all of those things. And then notice also for onions, how many onions would you need to put on a plate and exhibit at the fair? You see down here? 5, right? So you gotta try to find 5 that are the same kind. So we're gonna go to potatoes over here. And I'm gonna look over here at some of the desirable types. So if I was gonna take potatoes to the fair, how many would I need to take?
5.
5, right. And do I want to scrub all of the soil off of them or not? What do you think?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Do I want to get them scrubbed so that they're shiny though?
No.
Probably no. So this is actually about kind of how I would want to exhibit one. So I don't want tons of soil clots and stuff on it, but I don't want to scrub it so much that I take the skin off either. So when I look at potatoes, and I'm going to try to see if I can show you all. You have to put them on a paper plate. I just had a Valentine one left over. I couldn't find any white plates. But this is kind of the tricky part, is trying to find 5 of these that are all going to be uniform. So if I look at these, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'd have to try to find 6 of these that look about the same. And this guy over here is pretty small, isn't he? Can you guys kind of see that?
Yeah.
Hold him up there. So I would take that one off. So that's kind of the first thing I do, is I kind of look at them and try to make sure they all are the same size. Then if I look, this little one over here has kind of what's called a blemish. So maybe it got injured during harvesting or something else. So I do have, like we had that little potato and then I had another potato over here, but then I get back to the problem with size. So it can be really tricky if this is all that you have to kind of know what exactly to exhibit. So if that's all you have, you know what I say? I say just go for it, do the best that you can, and try to take a look at which one is the best. Is this, you know, is this that big of a blemish? No, probably not. You know, probably you could also think, well, maybe the judge will get in a hurry and might not notice. So kind of just depends on your own personal preference on what you think and kind of how you can go ahead and exhibit that. So are there any questions? How many of you all have exhibited vegetables before? What experience do you have? Caitlin, you have? I know the Burr House. Yeah, so what are some things you guys have learned about exhibiting fruits and vegetables at the fair?
That you should see how many you have, and if you have that many and they don't look the same, just try to do them.
Absolutely. Just try kind of the best that you can with what you have, right? How about anyone else? What are some other things you guys have learned? Well, you can kind of keep thinking about that. I did want to show that the parsley and other vegetable or excuse me, herbs is exhibited a little bit differently. So Mackenzie exhibited some parsley last year at the fair. And this was actually the first year as a kid, we only did vegetables. My mom never did any of the herbs or anything else. So we learned, make sure you have 5 sprigs in the bottle. So preferably the day that you go out before fair is the day you want to cut them because you want them to be fresh. And you just take kind of a little sprig, or in other words, the stem. And since I have like the parsley over here, obviously be taller, but I would cut off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and try to find them so that they don't have a lot of disease or anything on them. If you can see this, get it right here, this little leaf of parsley, can you tell if there's anything, does anything look wrong with it? I don't know if you can see it or not. You see it kind of white? It kind of got either scorched. I know it's not a disease, but it probably got scorched or underneath my growth light too hard. So I wouldn't want to get that one. I want to get them all nice and green. And then it says to trim the stems evenly with an overall length of 8 to 10 inches. So kind of take a look at that. And again, the stems should be exhibited with cut ends in the water. So this is where I like to save any kind of little jars or plastic, especially clear jars or something like that. That's kind of handy to be able to take these at the fair so that they don't break. So that is pretty much it. I've never had a chance and especially around here, most of our fruits are not ready by the time our fair has, but for state fair or anything else, if anything ever gets ready on time, there's information on exhibiting fruits as well. And there is a special book for exhibiting flowers too. So if you have questions about that, you know, Holly or myself or Deanna or anyone can help you with that as well. So I just kind of did a lot of talking and stuff, but hopefully maybe I give you a few tips on how to get some things ready for the fair. Do you guys, gals, have any questions?
No.
No? Well, I want you all to plant some things and see something at the fair. Hopefully, you know, this COVID-19 will go away and we can all see you because we all miss you a lot. And I hope that you all have a great rest of the school year and hopefully we'll be able to see you this summer, okay? Thank you guys all very much for joining.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.